there's an obvious difference between what is an Inca period wall here, and just to the right of that we can see a completely different wall over here, and on top of that Inca repair work. And as Brian Forster says, it's like night and day. It's completely different. And you can also see the crack between the largest block to the right there and the one to the left is probably caused by a big large earthquake that happened before the Inca came here. Because I mean, why would the other ways put it like that? Because they were able to, I mean, the people who built the megalithic parts of this place were, of course, able to put those stone blocks very tightly together. It's sad, it's shocking, and it's quite frankly a scandal that we don't know where we come from. We should know it all. I mean, it's our birthright. There is, of course, a possibility that there is some kind of divine purpose behind this amnesia, that we are supposed to have this very meager experience in order to grow or something like that. But I think we've come far enough to seriously try to understand ourselves deeply, where we come from. I'm recording this in Lima, Peru, where I've been touring around and have seen so many fantastic sites, historic sites, megalithic sites in this wonderful country. And to me, it's totally obvious that the most wondrous megalithic structures that you can find around here could not have been built by the dynastic Inca that we read about in the textbooks. The dynastic Inca that we know of, they were technologically a Bronze Age people. In other respects, they were more advanced, but technologically, they were Bronze Age people. The most acute scandal is that the textbooks, the standard textbooks, lead us to believe that what is obvious is false. They say that since there was no civilization that was more advanced than the Inca before them, it must have been they who built all this. We don't know how they did it, but they must have done it. End of story. That's what they say in the textbooks. Now, some say that the drive to find an alternative truth to these textbook versions about our origins, that drive is vain and only comes from a longing for drama, mystery, and excitement. They say that the solutions to mysteries are for the most part boring, or at least not so dramatic. They may even refer to the so-called Occam's razor, a principle that basically says that the most simple explanations of something, for the most part, is the correct explanation. Well, exactly. I'm convinced that someone who's never heard of the standard version of who did this, and who was asked whether they thought it plausible that the megalithic structures and the simpler stonework on top of them were built by the same people, that person would answer, no, of course not.
And this was the one of Inca Roca. He was Inca number 6. So this is the last of the megalithic sites that was utilized to build a palace inside. Once again, you see every stone is a different shape and size. And the whole thing interlocks. And again, the wall is about 2 meters thick. So it would be staggered. You'd have 2 stones, and then 3 stones, and then 2 stones. Unfortunately, the inside of this, they put stucco all over. The Spanish put stucco on it. So we can't see what it originally looked like. But yeah, this is one of the great megalithic sites we're going to be looking at.
See the grass and the wall there. Yeah.
Concluding that the Inca discovered advanced structures from a much earlier period and made them theirs is the most simple explanation. All those far-fetched and ill-founded theories about enormous amounts of people shaping gigantic granite blocks with bronze chisels and dragging 50-ton blocks over mountains with no wheels and no access to straight tree trunks that could be rollers. They are very complicated. Those theories are very complicated. When you see these awe-inspiring sights with your own eyes, those explanations actually appear ridiculous.
They had no iron until the Spanish arrived. And then the quarry for the red sandstone is over those mountains between 6 and 8 miles. So how would you transport something like this when you have no trees, no method of rolling it?
The quarries of these big blocks are coming from Peru, the Capilla volcano near the Lake Titicaca. So how did they bring those things? You need a big cranes, big heavy transportation, but they are scarce. So that's the enigma that we have here in Tiwanaku and Pumapunku.
So if you have a compass app, run it back and forth, slowly. No, but it, let's go ahead. Is it moving?
Yeah, but watch this now.
Fascinating.
Something right by there, I can feel my phone clicking.
Some people say that none of this really matters in real life. They say it doesn't make any difference. They say things like, okay, so there was an advanced high civilization with advanced technology 20,000 years ago that was lost in a cataclysm. So what? Some will never see the point in seeing the bigger picture. But I don't think they are the majority, actually. I say knowledge about our origins and how advanced earlier civilizations were means the world to us for a number of reasons. We may look at our own society in a different way if we realize that we're a successor civilization, not pioneers. We'll be less impressed by modern leaders who brag about historic progress. Western civilization will seem less unique and less impressive, which might lead to a more inclusive view on all the peoples on this planet. Perhaps we'll also even give less importance to material success, which is Western civilization's main basic contribution to humankind. Material success. And traditional religions, which claim to have begun as, epiphanies a few thousand years ago, they will look thin in this perspective. And not least, we understand less of where we're going if we don't know where we come from. Many today feel deep anxiety about the future. It seems like a dead end to them. And I'm pretty sure that once you've begun to understand where we come from, you'll begin to wonder what we are and why we're here. And that is, of course, the topic of many other videos on this podcast. So this is Saksai Waman with these incredibly large stone blocks. They weigh between 60 and 120 tons, perhaps. And they're in 3 layers. There are actually some promising signs out there. Independent researcher and writer Brian Forrester has noticed that tourist guides in Egypt and Peru are beginning to include alternative history in their stories. Netflix has recently aired Graham Hancock's and partly Randall Carlson's series Ancient Apocalypse, which is about exactly this topic, a cataclysm that wiped out earlier civilizations. Textbooks are cautiously adding Robert Schoch's hypothesis about the age of the Great Sphinx. And his theory is that the Great Sphinx is much, much older than what textbooks lead us to believe. And of course, The discovery of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey in the 90s and the dating of it a few years later has been a game changer for the whole discussion around the Younger Dryas cataclysm, the extremely dramatic ending of the last ice age. I think that within the next couple of decades, give or take a few years, what is now controversial will become mainstream. The paradigm will eventually flip, and that excites me. A paradigm shift can never be boring. Stay tuned for more vlogs and interviews from Peru on this podcast in the next couple of weeks. Love you guys. Bye for now. If you like this video and other interviews and talks on Mind the Shift, please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate all the support. And you can follow Mind the Shift on Facebook and Instagram. And you can follow me, Anders Bolling, on all the main social media and also on medium.com. Thank you.